All right, we're live. Welcome to episode 74 of the Baduk Weiqi Podcast. I'm Xiao Dai.
And I'm Gaza.
Gaza.
Gaza. It's me.
Very excited again. Now, Gaza, last week we had this podcast. I think we didn't mention someone. And that someone supposedly have had a history of chatting with me on Weibo. And when I say history, what I mean is that he's chatted to me once, but whatever. And this
Yeah, you've
person is...
mentioned this story actually in a previous
Oh, yeah?
podcast.
Yes.
But I don't remember which one.
Well, it's a long time ago. I think I just made a rating system that's different to Go ratings for all the pro players. In fact, you can see this rating on ratings too.
Who are we
.shoulderhit.com.
talking about, by the way?
What?
Well, you haven't actually mentioned who you're talking about. Who we forgot last week.
We're looking at this person here on screen, and this person is Young Kaiwen.
Young Kaiwen.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's it's actually quite interesting because Young Kaiwen is now a 9-dan player, a regular Jia League player, one of the strongest players in China, but he's never won anything, any title in China. So he was a top player, but maybe not at the upper echelons of pro players. So he hasn't really won a title. But after the introduction of AI, 2 players in China have been known as the player to have improved the most. And one is Li Xuanhao, who's already made a final of a Royal Major. And the other player is Yang Kaiwen. Now, just to give you some info, Yang Kaiwen is currently ranked 4th on the shoulder hit ratings. So that's quite high. And maybe he deserves it because he's just won the 3rd Qishi title in China. The English translation of this seems to be the 3rd GBA Cup, Chinese Weiqi Master, but Weiqi Master in Chinese is just Qishi. I don't know what a GBA is. I'm almost sure that it's not Game Boy Advance, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, so that's Yang Kaiwen here, looking very handsome. And I think he actually beat Ding Hao in the final. And when I say final,
it wasn't Gu Li, because that looks like Gu Li in the picture there with him.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Gu Li probably is the one giving out the awards. But yeah, it's a bit Ding Hao, which is this person here.
That's pretty impressive beating Ding Hao, considering he's a 2-time world champion.
Yeah, correct. And this year and within a 12-month period as well. So this is them. Now this is a very interesting competition because even though it's a Daqishi, it's a challenger, title holder kind of competition. The title match is decided over one game. So even though Ding Hao was the challenger, he was just there, and if he had won this one game, he would have made 500,000 renminbi. That's like more than a minor title. And
Wait, so Ding Hao only had to play one game?
Ding Hao only had to play one game because he's the title holder, and then Yang Kaiwen had to play through the whole tournament to win it, to become the challenger, and then have to play Ding Hao. But good on Yang Kaiwen. He's beaten Ding Hao by the slimmest of margins by half a point. Now let's look through Yang Kaiwen's road.
Half a point?
Yeah. Oh no, sorry, he didn't win by half a point. He beat him by resign. But in the challenger decider, he beat Deng Yifei by half a point. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now there's Hanamaru in the chat says that GBA according to Google means Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau, Greater Bay Area. So that makes sense. I thought Greater Bay Area includes more than these 3 cities, but more than these 3 regions, and not the whole of Guangdong. But I could be wrong there. But yeah, so that's the area. Basically, it's like a Cantonese speaking area in China that's very prosperous. GBA. Okay. And let's look through Yang Kaiwen's road to becoming the challenger. So he's been Deng Yifei in the challenger decision match, and I think he's beaten Fan Tingyu. And before that, he beat Zhang Tao and before that he beat Yang Jingxin, and before that he beat Shen Pei Ran. So I do believe all of them are playing in the Jia League. So, and he's been some big names like Yang Jingxin.
Yep,
Fan
that's
Tingyu,
that's three world champions that
and
he's
Deng
beaten.
Yifei.
Deng Yifei, Fan Tingyu, and Yang Jingjin.
Yeah, and before we started the this episode, you did mention that you did try to joke around and said that the winner of this competition was Yang Dingxin. Obviously because Yang Kaiwen and Yang Dingxin share the same surname, and you're trying to make a joke about how his Yang Kaiwen is not, I guess, the less famous of the Yangs. But he's done it this time. He's won the title and he's ranked really highly on my Go ratings, rating. So let's see. Maybe it's more things to come from Yang Kaiwen.
Yes, maybe. Now, before we move on to the next topic,
Yeah.
you did mention that this is someone who you've had interaction with.
Yeah.
Now, I did mention that you talked about this in a previous podcast, but that was quite a while ago. So why don't you go over that interaction again?
Oh yes. So Yang Kaiwen, my interaction with Yang Kaiwen went like this. So I published this ranking that I made of all the pro players in the world. Now, and I built that because I'm not. There was a point in time where I wasn't a big fan of the Go rating system. So I built my own ranking. Okay, I scraped my own data and I built it, and I published it on the Chinese Weibo. And somehow I mentioned that I believe I mentioned something like Yang Kaiwen is ranked, 25th on my rating or something, directly under one of Yang Kaiwen's posts. So Yang Kaiwen posted something on Weibo, which is like a Chinese Twitter, and directly below that I commented that he's ranked 25th or something, and he actually got curious and asked me about how my ranking worked, and I just showed him, yeah, this is how my ranking worked, this is where you rank, add oil, and now he's added oil. So yeah, that was the introduction. Thanks.
Yeah, that's probably one of the more pleasant interactions you've had with a pro.
Yeah.
We won't go over the other one.
Well, maybe there's another story for another time where I
story for another time.
When I trolled a pro pretty hard. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the. Yeah.
But interestingly enough, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, big congrats to Yang Kaiwen for his first career title. Hopefully, it's the first of many. Yeah. I'm a bit of a fan of his.
Yeah. Okay.
He seems to be someone who lets his Baduk do the talking.
Very nice.
He also made the Asian Games team.
Yep. In
this year's Asian Games, of course, they didn't get the gold; they got the silver medal. But yeah, he still qualified for the team. So
yeah,
it's a pretty good year.
And I think later on in this episode, we're going to talk about the Korean League, and Yang Kaiwen plays a part as well.
Yep.
Okay, so that's it. From talking about trolling a player to a player who trolls other players or commentators or whatever, using his tea stealing Suji, and that person is the legend Cho Chikun. So Gaza, what can you tell me about this picture and the sign that he's holding?
Well, we've got a big milestone here. Now we've every time a player in the last 2 years has, the last 18 months, I guess, has hit 1,000 wins.
Yep.
We've had an announcement. We've made an announcement in the podcast celebrating that milestone because it is a significant accomplishment in professional Go to reach 1,000 career wins.
Yeah.
Cho Chikun has reached 1,600 wins.
Wow.
So that's more than half. That's like 60% more than 1,000, which is insane to think about, because 1,000 is something that for many of these players it takes their entire career to reach, and Cho Chikun has done that plus another 600.
Amazing.
So, I mean, to be honest, 800 wins is considered to be quite a successful career, and you could think of that as him having done it twice.
Yeah.
Like two incredible careers.
And he's still going.
Oh, and he's still going. Yes, he reached his 1,600th win last week. I don't know who it was against.
Yeah.
I could try looking it up, but in any case, he's the first player in the Nihon Ki-in, in fact, the first player in Japan to reach 1,600 wins. Of course, he's not actually Japanese. He is Korean, but he plays in Japan.
Yep.
For the Nihon Ki-in. And he's technically a representative of Japan, really.
100%, yes.
Yes. But yeah, he is the first player in Japan to have 1,600 wins. It looks like he actually got the milestone win on Christmas in the Meijin prelims against a 7-dan by the name of Kubo Hideo.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in any case, yeah, I think he was also the first player to reach 1,500 wins in Japan. I think he's still the only player to reach 1,500 wins in Japan.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just really incredible career. He's of course won a lot of titles. According to his Nihon Ki-in page, he's won 82 titles.
Yeah.
Which is 76. 76 career titles, which is the most in Japan. So number one in career wins and career titles in Japan. He has won all the 7 major titles at least once, not at the same time, but he has won them each of them at least once. And I believe he was the first player to win each of the 7 major titles.
Yeah.
He set a lot of records. Like at the time he turned pro, he was, I believe, the youngest ever.
Are you counting the time he turned pro in Korea or in Japan?
Well, did he turn?
I thought theoretically he's already pro in Korea, and then he moved to Japan to be an insei, and then he had to start from scratch because back then obviously they didn't recognize Korean pro status in Japan.
Well, I believe it was in Japan.
Okay, sure.
But it does say on his Nihon Ki-in page that he did become pro at 11, which was a record.
Yes.
Yes. In terms of like his biggest titles, like internationally, he's won 2 world majors.
Yep.
Let me check what they
he's
are.
won the Fujitsu Cup, and the Samsung Cup.
Yeah, the Samsung Cup, and I believe the Samsung Cup he won that as the wild card.
Correct. The only wild card.
Which may be the only time a wild card has won a world championship.
Correct. Yes.
Yes. So he won the Fujitsu Cup in 1991. So he was one of the early champions, and he won the Samsung Cup in 2003. Yes, he was also runner-up in the Tongyang Cup.
Right. Yep.
One of the early Korean world majors in 1993.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think the stories of Cho Chikun, they're just way too many to retell. But I think a couple of them stands out to me. Like I think in the chat, Hanamaru did mention that the Cho Chikun won the Fujitsu Cup by forfeit. So both times.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. Both times Cho Chikun won. Both times that he won the world major, he's done it in quite dramatic fashion. So the first time, of course, was the Fujitsu Cup, which is what Hanamaru is mentioning in the chat. Now that was quite dramatic because his opponent in the final was Chen Yuping, a player from China, and I believe at that point, China has not yet even won the international title. So Chen Yuping might have been the first player to reach a final.
That's not actually true because Ni Wei-ping reached the final of the inaugural Ing Cup.
Oh no, I mean no Chinese player has won the title. Of course, Ni Wei-ping reached the final of the very first one of the the second international title. And it lots of stories are flying around about Chen Yuping. Of course, it's a 9-dan, and back in Chen Yuping's time, being a 9-dan is very special in China. So and Chen Yuping, now there were so many stories around about why Chen Yuping didn't participate in the final. I don't know which one is true, but the story went like this: Chen Yuping was so like anxious. He was under so much pressure. They just didn't want to go to the final. So on the day of the final, apparently Chen Yuping just stayed in his hotel room, locked himself in, refusing to get out. And Nie Weiping, being the team lead for China, literally went to Chen Yuping's door, started banging on it really, really hard, trying to get him to come out. And all Chen Yuping did was just stay in his hotel room and complains about a headache. And Nie Weiping wrote in his autobiographies, it says that he felt that Chen Yuping was really afraid of Cho Chikun, very, very afraid. So that was the first time that Cho Chikun has won a world major. Now, what's very interesting
about that sounds like a tall tale to me.
Yeah, it does sound like it, but now
but,
that's
one interesting bit of trivia for that though is that in the Fujitsu Cup was an interesting tournament in that for a world major it only had 16 players, so there were only 4 rounds. And each round, including the final, was a knockout. The final was 1 game. So usually to win the Fujitsu Cup, you only had to win, if you qualified for the tournament, you only had to win 4 games.
Right, yeah.
And you're a world champion. Whereas Cho Chikun, because he didn't technically play the final, he won the Fujitsu Cup with only 3 wins. And which kind of makes him the only player to win a world major.
Right.
With 3 games.
Yeah, which is quite crazy.
Yeah, quite crazy. He was that good that he only needed to win 3 games.
Yeah. Now that Chen Yuping story about the Fujitsu Cup really highlighted another thing I wanted to mention about Cho Chikun, which was that in the press conference after he's won the world major without even playing, he was a bit incredulous. He mentioned in the news conference says, I cannot understand why he did not even turn up to the game, because like even if I would die playing this game, I would still have turned up. And he's not really joking. We all know that when, there was a time when he was playing in the Qishi match, and he actually ended up in a pretty significant car crash, which made him sit on a wheelchair, and for some reason I think back then the Japanese newspaper decided not to postpone the games, even though Cho Chikun was in a wheelchair and obviously had great difficulties with coming to the games. They still decided to hold the games. So what Cho Chikun ended up doing, which is and captured in this picture here, is he turned up to the games in a wheelchair. Now, of course, all fairy tales turn into reality sometimes. Cho Chikun ended up losing that series to none other than another legend, Koichi. But still, just his fighting spirit is just so incredible. I think this is one of those ghost stories, or that will be talked about for maybe hundreds of years to come. So but anyway, Cho Chikun, he couldn't understand. I can understand why he couldn't understand why Chen Yuping didn't turn up. So that's the first time he's won the world major. The second time, as Hanawari mentioned, it was a complete legit win. And as you mentioned, Gaza, he won it by being the wild card. And his opponent in the final, Park Yun-hun, apparently was very distraught. Park Yun-hun, of course, later on ended up winning 3 world majors himself. But
technically he won 2. He won the Fujitsu Cup twice.
Okay, sure.
And he won another cup. He won the CMC Cup, which is not really a world major.
Okay, sure. But Park Yun-hun was a noted player in his own right.
He still is an active Baduk League player.
Correct. Of course, Park Yun-hun. Of course, the story about him was that when Lee Chang-ho was in his heyday, people said, okay, if you have a Yosei problem, go ask Lee Chang-ho. But after the emergence of Park Yun-hun, apparently the joke was that if you have a Yosei problem now, go ask Park Yun-hun. That's how good he was in Yosei. Of course, he's almost a contemporary of Lee Sedol, but he's still, of course, not retired and still playing. Yeah. So, Gaza, one more interesting thing about this Cho Chikun winning the 1,600 wins was that right before he had to play the game that ended up being his 1,600th win, he's also technically on 899 losses. So if he had lost that game, he would have achieved 900 losses as well.
I wonder if they would have recognized that as a milestone.
That is... I think I recently saw on Weibo that Mi Yuting had just played his 900th game. So even and to think that Cho Chikun has 900 losses, more games than Mi Yuting has played, that's just incredible.
You've piqued my interest there because apparently someone on Weibo knows how many games Mi Yuting has played.
Oh yes, there's some guy from Weibo on Weibo. He's basically the unofficial Chinese Weiqi statistician. So like he keeps track of most games
you've really piqued my interest here. We're gonna have to discuss this after the podcast.
Yeah, sure. Now on the Japanese Nihon Kin page it says Cho Chikun has 1,600 wins. That's easy to understand. 899 losses. 3, I don't know what this means in Japanese, and 4 no wins and no losses. So that means draws, I guess. But I don't know what this 3 is. Maybe I'll turn on Google Translate and see what that actually is saying.
It probably relates to something like a triple co or something like that.
Yeah. So actually when you turn on so it says achieve 4 no wins in Mochiko. I don't know what that means. But anyway,
I don't think it's that important.
Okay, sure. But anyway, that's Cho Chikun for you, legend of the legends, and
nice,
very nice.
Big congrats.
And there's quite a bit in the chat, but Gaza, if you have anything wanted to mention, do tell me. So Gaza, from one legend, we're gonna go to another world major that's restarted this week, Gaza. And that's the Mlily Cup, the 6th Mlily Cup, I believe. And we resumed the competition at the quarterfinal stage. Yes, Gaza, you were saying?
Yes, it's actually the 5th Mlily Cup.
Yeah. Oh, the fifth Mlily Cup. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. So what we have got here in the 5th Mlily Cup. So of course, the Mlily Cup is a world major from China. Mlily, I believe, is a company that makes mattresses. But yeah, they've been supporting the Weiqi, and this Mlily Cup is run every 2 years. And I think last time we covered it, they have played up to the quarterfinals. And just let me share with you the quarterfinalist list. And it is Deng Yifei and playing Gu Zihao, Liao Yunhe playing Mi Yuting, Liu Yuhang playing Xu Jiayang, and then Tan Xiao versus Li Xuanhao. So all of these are reasonably big names. Maybe the name that's most unfamiliar to the viewers would be Liu Yuhang, but I do believe he plays in the Jia League. So yeah. And Gaza, what's happened was that you may have noticed that all 8 of the players here are Chinese. And of course, players like Xin Jinso were eliminated quite early on. I believe Xin Jinso was eliminated by Li Chunhao, and they have just played the quarterfinals, and we have Deng Yifei beating Gu Zihao, Liao Yunhe beating Mi Yuting. Mi Yuting have won Mlily Cup twice and was the reigning champion. Liu Yuhang beat Xu Jiayang, and then Li Xuanhao beat Tan Xiao. So the final semi-finals have been decided, and the semi-final will be a best of 3. So we'll be closely watching this one. Guys,
very interesting results in the quarterfinals, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
We had 4 we had 4 world champions in the quarterfinals. 2 of them were playing each other, Deng Yifei and Gu Zihao. Gu Zihao is a current world champion, having won the Quzhou-Lanke Cup this year. But Deng Yifei beat him. I think Gu Zihao would have been considered one of the favourites, if not the favourite.
Correct.
Of the final 8, but he lost. And then the other favourite you would have to say was Mi Yuting, because he's the only person left in this group who's won the Mlily Cup before. In fact, he's won it more than once, and he's the reigning Mlily Cup champion.
Right.
But he lost as well. He lost to what? Liao Wanhe?
Yes.
Yeah, so probably the two biggest names in the quarterfinals both got eliminated. Quite surprising to see that. And one other world champion, Tan Xiao, he also lost, but that one wasn't as big of an upset. He lost to Li Junhao, who had a very strong 2021. And then finally, Liu Yuhang, probably the least well-known of the 8 players, he beat, as you said, Xu Xiaoyang. So really I would say only one of the games went according to what people's expectations, the general expectation.
Correct. Now, of course,
so it makes for a very interesting set of semifinals, because Deng Yifei, he's the only one of the 4 who's won, who's a world champion. So there's a very strong chance that we'll see. Of course, he could win it, but there is a very strong chance that we'll see a new world champion crowned in this Mlily Cup.
Of course, Li Xuanhao has already made a final, losing to Byung Sang-yeol. Liao Yuanhe was a semi-finalist in the past, so wonder if he can do one better. Liu Yuhang maybe is a surprise dark horse. Maybe I really don't expect him to get past Li Xuanhao, but let's see. Now, Gaza, one thing that's about this Chinese Weiqi Association, and I don't think we have discussed this on the podcast, and that is or we may have, but we basically the general, the person, the CWA president, the general, he's retired. He's no longer the president of the Chinese Weiqi Association. The new Chinese Weiqi Association president is Chang Hao, another Chinese Weiqi legend. Now, after he's become the president, a lot of things have started to happen with the Chinese Weiqi Association. For a start, as you can see here, they actually did a live stream of the games, the Mlily Cup. And that didn't really used to happen, not the official ones anyway. They had other organizations doing live streams, maybe the Shanghai Weiqi Association, maybe Fox. But this time we have got an official stream from the Chinese Weiqi Association featuring world major semifinals Peng Chuan and popular Weiqi streamer Fan Weijing. And after the game, they invited the players to come and commentate on their own game. So that was a big change. Now, this thing is not shown on YouTube, but it's on the Chinese platform called Douyin. So Douyin. So, and if you join the Pro Weiqi Discord, I'll try to share the links to these streams when they're live. It's actually quite good. You can actually see a live stream of the players playing Weiqi, just a little bit like the Korean streams. But of course, it's not a very a productionized stream, but hey, it's there. It's there. And another thing that's really interesting that's happened recently with the Chinese Weiqi Association is they have been sending this kind of letter of thanks to various medias that report on Weiqi in China. So this is, for example, this is the one that was published by Ike. Basically, thank them for continually supporting the Weiqi. And So these are some very interesting changes that have come into the Chinese Weiqi Association after Chang Hao became the president. So maybe there's more good things to come. I'm very hopeful. Fingers crossed. So that's it about the Mlily Cup.
Wait a sec. You haven't mentioned who's playing who in the semi-finals.
Who's
when
playing
are
who?
they being played?
I do believe the games will start tomorrow, and that let me see if I can remember who played who. I don't remember it been mentioned.
I believe it is Dang Yifei versus Liao Wanhe.
Okay. Oh yeah, there we go.
Liu Yuhang versus Li Junhao.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a best of 3. So it's.
And when's the first game?
Tomorrow.
Oh, really? Tomorrow?
Yeah. I do believe once they've finished playing the semi-finals, they would have another break before they play the finals, which I think will be a best of 5. And so that's the Mlily Cup, and hopefully it will continue to be played. Yeah, sure. So that's the Mlily Cup, Gaza. So let's move on to another international major, but that one is actually only at the prelim stage, and that's the International Lanke Cup, which is the first annual Chinese international major tournament. And they're going through the prelims. I think they are basically having 14 spots, something like that, for the prelim available. Or some other high number. I can't remember what it was.
I believe it appears that they've doubled the number of participants. Right. This year's Lanka Cup, I believe, had 24 participants, like the LG Cup. Oh no, 32. I think 32. This year there was 32.
Yep.
Similar to the Samsung Cup. I believe next year there's going to be 48.
Is that right?
Well, from the article that I saw, it certainly seemed like there was going to be 48.
Right. That could be the case because it does feel like there's a lot of Chinese players that they have put through to this competition. But there's some big news coming out of this prelim. And that one of the big one is, firstly, Ke Jie had to qualify through the prelims, and he's actually qualified through the prelims, believe it or not. So Ke Jie will be participating. I believe last year he got given a wild card, but then he got knocked out in the first round.
He got given a wild card before the qualifiers started.
So he didn't even play in the prelims.
So he didn't. Yeah, that's right. He didn't play in the prelims. Whereas this year, I noticed that they didn't announce the wild card. They haven't announced the wild card yet.
Right. No, I believe this year there's going to be 2 wild cards.
Yeah. And I remember mentioning that last year. I thought it was weird that they mentioned that they announced the wild card before the prelims because I'm of the impression that the wild card should be announced after the qualifiers and it should be awarded to someone who actually attempted to qualify but failed. And it looks like this time around they're actually going to do that.
Right.
Whereas last time that's like, I guess they were just concerned that Ke Jie was going to not qualify.
Yeah.
So they gave him the wild card in advance. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating, but yeah.
Yeah. No.
In any case, Ke Jie did actually qualify.
Yep.
So well done for him. I believe that Tang Weixin didn't qualify.
No, Tang Weixin was actually in the same group as Ke Jie, but I believe Tang Weixin might have lost to
Peng Liao.
Yes, Peng Liao. And Peng Liao was the player who faced Ke Jie in the final prelim and ended up losing to Ke Jie. So yeah. Actually, I can't find the prelim elimination charts, but yeah. But the other big news, Gaza, apart from Ke Jie, is Wei. She qualified as well. And what's interesting is Wei she's just had her 60th birthday, and she didn't qualify through the women's section. She qualified by the veterans section, and she beat Luo Shihe in the final to qualify. So another legend making it through to the qualifiers. Maybe now a lot of big name players did not make it. So Xu Yue and Deng Yifei are two of them. So some other big names that didn't make it were Zhou Hongyu and Yu Zhiying. Now you'd be surprised because the last prelim game happened, I believe, yesterday, and it was the women's section's prelim final, and the final was between Luo Chuyue and Wu Yiming. So Wu Yiming we do know about, which is this lady here. She also plays in the Korean women's Baduk League sometimes. But Luo Chuyue, I've never heard of her. I don't even know what she's done in the game of Weiqi, but she actually beat Wu Yiming and to qualify. So now we have a new, basically not so familiar name player in the qualifying for the women's section. So let me quickly go through the full list of qualifiers from China. So we have Ke Jie, we mentioned. Huang Xin? Huang Xin.
Huang Xin, nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And then we got Zhang Tao.
I believe Huang Xin is a former Mlily Cup player.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we have Zhang Tao, Zheng Zaixiang. Zheng Zaixiang, of course, has played in a lot of new, rookie king kind of type tournaments. We got Odia but Goody, Gu Lingyi, qualifying again. And then got Xu Jiayang, got Fan Tingyu, Zhao Chenyu, Li Weiqing, Yang Dong, Tan Xiao, and then Shaker. And in the women's section, we got Luo Chuyue, and in the veteran section, Wei. So a total of 14 players have qualified from China. So that's why I thought the list of players is a bit more than before. So on Wikipedia it says it's going to be a competition made up of 48 players, and it will be 14 seeds. The top two finishers of last year, so that would be Gu Zihao and Xin Jinsou. China gets 4 seeds, Korea 2, Japan 2, Chinese Taipei 2, and 2 wildcards. And then the prelims have their basically spots basically assigned to all the different countries. So China gets 14, so that's what you see here. Korea gets 9, and that includes 1 female player and 1 veteran player. Japan gets 5, and that includes 1 female player and 1 veterans player. And Chinese Taipei gets 2, Europe gets 2, and North America gets 2. And they defined veteran players as players 45 years or older. So that is the Chinese qualifiers. I do not believe I've heard anything about what's happening in the Korean or Japanese qualifiers. I don't recall anyway. And definitely not from the US and North America and not Taiwan. So let's see. But what it looks like to me is that out of the 48 players, there will be 4 Taiwanese players, 2 from Europe, 2 from North America, and there will be, I think, 7 Japanese players, 11 Korean players, plus Xin Jinsou. So that's going to be quite a huge list. Definitely the tournament of the year, another good tournament to look forward to. Yes, so that's the Lanke Cup for you. I think in the chat, Hanamaru says Luo Chuyue is an up-and-coming new Chinese female star and played in the women's league. I do believe that would mean women's JAR league, but I honestly, she was so... I probably didn't pay really much attention to that name, I don't think. But let's see what she can do. She's probably a very, very strong player if she can get past Wu Yiming. So that's it about the Quzhou-Lanke Cup prelim. And let's see. And Gaza, let's maybe spend a bit of time talking about the top 10 news items coming out of Korea.
Oh, okay.
Believe it or not, Shinjinso related news is like 5 out of 10. Okay, I do believe this top 10 news came out of some Korean Baduk media company or just some website, or maybe Han Games, but I'm not sure exactly what it is. But let me just go through the top 10 news that happened in Baduk according to the Korean perspective. Number 1, Korea wins 3 medals at the Asian Games. Nice, very good. Shinjinso wins the In Cup over Shaker.
Oh yeah,
very nice. Shinjinso achieves 100 official wins in 1 year.
That's insane.
That's insane.
Never happened before.
I think we discussed it in the last episode. Now, Korea, the number 4 is Korea winning 3 Nongshim Cups in a row, or maybe also known as Shinjinso winning Nongshim Cup 3 times in a row. Yes. Yeah, and the 5th item was Shinjinso leads kicks to Korean League victory. Kicks. Yeah, that's a good one. Number 6 is Kim Dayoung defeating Choi Jong to win women's Kisung.
That happened like a couple of weeks ago.
I guess possibly signifying a changing of the guards or a beginning of the end of an era in Korean women's Baduk. Number 7 is Han Woo-jin and other young players. Seems to be rising in the rankings.
I was concerned. It said that they exploded.
Yeah,
I was worried there, but I see what you're saying now. You've clarified things.
Yeah, very good. And then number 8 is Sumire transferring to the KBA.
Oh, that's a big news story.
Yeah, that's big news.
No surprise, that's a top 10 news story.
I know. Now, number 9 is Korean team wins 2 gold at the Para Asian Games, so ranking first in Weiqi. So,
I didn't know about this one.
Yeah, I guess it's not really that reported. I guess. I guess LG Cup was the reopened as a face-to-face comp after 4 years of online play only. So that's the number 10. So that rounds out the top 10 news. Now, guys, any comments you want to make about this top 10?
Well, obviously, I'm surprised that Byun Sang-el winning the Chunlan Cup didn't seem to make the top 10.
Right.
Nor did Choi Jong achievements, like the fact that she won both the Wuching Wan Cup,
right,
and the Senko Cup in the same year, which actually no woman has done that before.
Right. Yes.
But apparently that hasn't made the top 10.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
I think that's why we have the Pro Weiqi Awards, the Pro Go Baduk Weiqi Podcast Awards.
Yes, that's exactly true. The annual awards will be coming up. Unlike these newspapers which have their annual awards before the year finishes.
Yeah.
We wait until the year finishes because we want to make sure that everything is accounted.
Exactly. God knows what can happen in the last 2 days, So hopefully we'll make some amends here, because some of these feel like the scraping the bottom of the barrel a bit, but hey, that's harsh. Wow, it's harsh. I know it's harsh. Now, Gaza, talking about the harsh, what have we got about the Korean League? Because it's going to be a very harsh selection system.
Yes, well, I wanted to cover this last week, but I hadn't put the post up on the subreddit. I have done that now.
Yes.
And the Korean League, it has just started. It actually started 2 days ago, but I wanted to discuss the teams.
Yes, very nice.
So it's similar to last year's league.
Yep.
But there are some differences. Now, for those that weren't aware, last year had 12 teams in the league.
Yes.
and each team had 5 players. So that's 60 players. This time around, now I should point out though that 2 of those teams were foreign teams. One of them was all Taiwanese, and the other one was all Japanese. So there were actually only 10 teams of Korean players. So 50 Koreans were in the league last season. This season, it's been reduced to 8 teams. The Taiwanese and the Japanese teams are no longer in the league. So the 8 teams are Korean teams. So it's been reduced from 50 players in the Korean league to 40. So it's a little bit more difficult to get into the league this year. Right. But 8 teams is not too small. A lot of seasons in the Korean league have had 8 teams before. 12 teams was kind of a record last year. So 8 teams is pretty normal, but yeah, only 14 players. And the way that it works is that players go into a draft.
Yep.
And teams will then draft, players. Each team will draft 1 player at a time.
Yep.
And you may be wondering, which team gets to draft first, and it's done randomly. So each team, draws a number out of a hat.
Right.
And if you get the number 1, you get to draw first.
So it's not like the NBA where if you played garbage, then you get to play the better players.
Yes, that's right. It's not about last year's performance, because some teams drop out of the league and then new teams join. So it's probably just not easy.
Yep.
But in any case, what happens is the team that draws first in the first round,
yep,
they draw last in the second and third round.
Yep.
Try and make it fair. It's kind of the ordering in the first round is reversed in the second and third rounds.
Yep.
Now there are some other things that can happen in that you can actually choose, if you wish, you can choose to keep players that were in your team last season. So for instance, if you have Shin Jin-so in your team, you obviously want to keep him.
Yep.
And the teams that those players, those are called protected players. So if you protect a player, they don't go into the draft. So other teams can't pick him. That player stays in your team.
Right.
And in return, you don't get to make a pick in the first round.
Right.
Basically, your first round selection is your protected player.
Okay.
And you can protect more than one player. In fact, I believe Team Kicks, the current champions, they protected all 5 of their players.
Very nice.
So they didn't actually pick anyone from the draft. They just held their team from last season.
Don't change it if it ain't broke.
Yeah. Now there is a limit to this. You can't protect. I think you can only protect a player twice.
Up to 3 years, I think.
Yeah, I think you can only have the same player 3 seasons in a row. After that, you have to release them into the draft. So that's, for instance, why Park Jun-hwan went into the draft, because his team, Beautiful Hapcheon, had already used up their quota of seasons for him. Right. Now the first 3 rounds are basically picked from a draft, and then the next 2 rounds, so the final 2 rounds, players actually go through qualifiers to make the final 16.
Right.
Because there's 8 teams. Well, in fact, in this case, it was the final 14, because Kicks protected all 5 of their players, so there were only 14 spots available in the final 2 rounds. So what happens is all 8 teams, they do the first 3 rounds in advance, and they announce their protections in advance. And then once it's known how many spots are left in the final 2 rounds, all the remaining players that haven't been drafted, they'll go through qualifiers.
Right.
Until there's 14 players left. And then those 14 players are the ones that are drafted in the 4th and 5th rounds.
Right.
So basically the first 3 rounds, anyone can be selected, but usually it's the top players, right? The top ranked players. And then the next 2 rounds, it doesn't matter if you're ranked outside the top 100. If you win enough games to make the final 14, you will be picked in a Jar League team, which is pretty cool.
Right. Yep.
Now, in this case, you can see the teams there. Obviously, you've got the usual names: Shin Jin So, Park Jun Hwan, Kang Dong Yoon, Byun Sang Il, and all that. You've got some more interesting names in the 4th and 5th rounds. For instance, Kim Dayoung. She made the Korea Zinc team.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this isn't the first time she's played in the Baduk League. She played last season for a couple of rounds as one of the reserves. In fact, she beat Park Jin Sol in one of her games. But this time she's made the team outright, so that's pretty cool.
Yep.
I did want to point out there are some notable absences though from the Baduk League.
Yep.
There are 3 players that are currently in the top 20 in Korea that are not in the Baduk League, which is pretty.
Oh yes. Let me guess. Lee Dong-hun.
Now, let me get into that. It's interesting that you've got players in the top 20 that are not in the Korean League because it's a 40-player league.
Yes.
Right? So you would think all of the top 20 would be in there. Now, Lee Dong-hun is not in the top 20. He's not actually ranked anymore because he's been absent for too long.
Damn.
He's not one of the players I'm talking about. Firstly, Park Ha-min is not in the league. Now, that one's not surprising because Park Ha-min is still doing military service.
Right, yep.
So he basically isn't available to play this season of the league. He will be available next season.
Right.
But not this season.
Okay.
Another one is Choi Jong.
Choi Jong, yes.
Yes, Choi Jong, in fact, is not in the league, and it's not because she wasn't selected, it's because she withdrew from the draft.
Wow.
Apparently, according to my source, one of my sources, it's because she wanted to play fewer games over the next 12 months for health reasons. So obviously, the Korean League requires a lot of play. Like you're guaranteed. Well, for someone like Choi Jong, you're basically guaranteed, 1 game a week.
Yeah.
And then you have to consider all of the other tournaments that she plays in. So I guess she elected to forego this season of the Korean League to try and lessen her playing schedule.
Yep. Okay.
Now, the other player in the top 20, and perhaps the most surprising one, is Kim Ji-sok.
Right.
He's currently 9th in the Korean rankings. Now, I don't actually know why he didn't participate, but I've noticed that there are a couple of other competitions where he hasn't participated. For instance, I believe he didn't participate in the Nongshim Cup qualifiers.
Yeah.
And I think there was another world major that he didn't whose qualifiers he didn't participate in. So yeah, I'm a bit curious about Kim Ji-sok's activity over the last couple of months. I'm wondering if he's pulling a Lee Dong-hun.
Wow.
I'm really not sure.
Yep. Okay.
But yeah, in any case, Kim Dayoung is actually the only woman in a team in the Baduk League. For those wondering about Kim Yoon-ji, she fell in the last hurdle in the qualifiers.
Yeah.
So she fell 1 game short of qualifying for that final 14.
Okay. Sure.
Now, one other thing that has been added on, so one sort of another gimmick that's been added for this Baduk League is a 6th player. Teams have been allowed to add a 6th player, and for many teams, this 6th player is actually a foreign player.
Right.
Now, yeah, it's you notice on the screen there that it's at the bottom. It's called the substitute, and you'll see that for Baduk Mecca, they've got Young Kaiwen, who we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. He's won his first title, and now he's playing in the Baduk League.
Yep.
In Korea. I think this is the first time we've had mainland Chinese players.
Yep.
Play in the Korean Baduk League, which is interesting because China already has their own
league.
extremely strong league.
Yes.
But I guess these players want to, they want to play against more regular games against Korean players, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
We also have a career price information. They've got Deng Yifei, another player that we've mentioned in this podcast.
Yep.
Beautiful Hapcheon have Kim Sung-jin, who's actually a very young player. So they may have just added him to give him more experience. Perhaps they see him as, a player of the future like Han Woo-jin or something like that.
Yep.
Who's this new team? Yong Mahan's Heart. They've got Zhu Haohong. This is actually a new team that have. I don't think they were in the Baduk League last year.
Yep.
But they've got Zhu Haohong, who did play in the Baduk League for Team Taiwan last season, and he didn't do too shabby. Obviously he wants to play, high-level games against Korean players.
Yep.
Now, then they're actually not the only ones. There have been some updates since this table was made. 3 other players are have been added to some teams.
Yes.
So let me quickly look for them. So John Kwangjang Chinook, that's Byun Sang-il's team. They've got Park Sang-jin as their 6th player. Not exactly he's not really a young player anymore.
Right.
So I'm not entirely sure, what's up with that decision. But he's a Korean player. Korea Zinc, they've got Liao Wan-he.
Right. Korea Zinc. Okay. Yep.
And Liao Wan-he, we've talked about this podcast as well. So very interesting, that one. But perhaps the most interesting one that I saw was Team Wanik. They've got Guzi Hao as their 6th player.
Yes.
That's a very formidable team. Guzi Hao, the reigning Quzhou-Lanke champion.
Yep.
This one's the most interesting one to me. I'm very surprised that someone of Guzi Hao's caliber has felt that it's, in his interest to come over to the Baduk League.
Yeah.
But this will certainly raise the caliber, the standard of the Baduk League, and it'll perhaps raise the profile of it as well.
Yeah.
In fact, Team Kicks are the only one who don't have a 6th player. I'm not sure if it's possible to add a 6th player later on in the season, but very interesting.
Now I want to see Team Kicks import Ke Jie.
Oh, I would love that. That would be cool. But in any case, of those substitutes, Yang Kaiwen actually played just a couple of hours ago, or in fact, just an hour ago.
Yep.
He played against Han Sang-cho of Korea Zinc, and he won his game. He actually he actually played it in person in Korea. So.
Very nice.
Yes. So, very interesting. But anyway, that's the Korean League. Yeah, so it has just started. I think this is the 3rd match of the first round.
Yep.
Is on at the moment, or it may have just finished. Oh no, it's still going on.
Yep.
I think you posted a link
to the chat about the link.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, Gaza, these imports they are playing in person, right?
They are playing in person, yes. So they travel to some of the 6 players are actually Korean, but the other ones are, Taiwanese or Chinese, and I believe they do actually travel to Korea to play the games in person.
Very nice. Okay. So another Korean league to look forward to. To me, it's very interesting because they because last year they experimented with the foreign teams. I believe, if I'm not wrong, both foreign teams ended up bottom of their group.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, so maybe then they thought maybe this is not a good idea. So they decided to bring in imports. So they're trying different things. So
Yeah, and I do want to also point out that the format, like the matches, seem to be quite similar to last season. So what they do is that there are actually four games in a match. So the teams have 5 players, well 6 players, most teams, but there are 4 games.
Yeah.
So you pick 4 players. Each team picks 4 players, and you basically, you pick which players you don't just necessarily put your top player on board 1. You can put your players on any of the boards. So you can put your top player on board 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then whoever wins the most, whichever team wins the most wins. But if it ends 2 games apiece, then they'll have a 5th game.
Yep.
And you can use, if you want, you could use one of your previous players for the 5th game.
Right.
So it's possible for a player to play twice in one match. But I believe that you can. So the 5th game is technically called the ace match, and I believe you have a set quota for how many times you can use a particular player for the ace match.
Right.
So, like for instance, Team Kicks just can't use Shin Jin So every time it draws 2 all.
No. Yeah.
And then I think so. In this case, last time around they split it into 2 groups of 6 teams. This time around, there's just 1 group of 8 teams.
Right.
And I don't know how the playoffs are going to work out, the finals and all that. But we can get to that, when it gets closer to the end of the league.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds good. Yeah. So another Korean League season to look forward to, I guess.
Yes, very much so.
Very can't wait. So Nagasa, I think you mentioned that some of the top 20 players didn't even participate, and it's like a 40-player league. I also do wonder how many players outside of the top 40 has been selected. I know Kim Dayoung is definitely outside of the top 40, and she's in it. So that's just a curiosity that I had. But yeah,
I'm not entirely sure. The thing I know that a couple of the players in Team Kicks are outside the top 40. I'm pretty sure that Kim Sung Jae and Kim Chang Hoon are both outside the top 40. Possibly also Baekhyun Woo.
Right.
I would say that all of the players that were drafted in the first 3 rounds are inside the top 40, with the possible exception of Moon Min Jung.
Right.
I'm not sure if he's in the top 40. I'll just quickly check.
Yep.
Moon Min Jung. Oh, Moon Min Jung is in the top 40 for sure. Yeah.
Oh, right.
So all the players drafted in the first 3 rounds are in the top 40, and I would guess that maybe half of the players in the 4th and 5th round are top 40.
Right.
Definitely some of them. Maybe all of the 4th round players are top 40, or close to all of the 4th round players are top 40.
Right.
And then the 5th round players probably all outside the top 40. Yeah, that's my guess.
Okay, sure.
So I would say that there's maybe 10 or 11 players that are actually outside the top 40. So it is pretty representative.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, Gaza, Korean
League.
League.
Someone asked in the chat, is it double round robin? Almost certainly, because there's 8 teams. I'd imagine that there's going to be 14 rounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. So that's it for the Korean League. Now, Gaza, before we go to the calendar, I do want to go through maybe as a bit of a preview for the annual awards. And what I have on screen right now is the Weibo of, I believe, a journalist at one of the biggest sports newspaper in China. He's got a page, a whole page in that newspaper dedicated to mostly Weiqi, but also to Xiangqi as well, or any board game of any type. Like sometimes he covers, I believe, bridge, for example. So going through his Weibo. So on his Weibo, he's got some polls that he's running, which are the maybe if I just read them to you. The first poll he has on there that he's quoting someone else. By the way, he's quoting someone else. Actually, the guy that he's quoting is a Weibo person based in Canada, and that's the person I talked about with all of who's been collecting all the stats for Chinese Weiqi. So the first poll that he's got there is the best female player. In the number one choice is Yu Jing for winning the women's Guoshou, women's Mingyuan, and the women's individual, and the Asian Games women's team event. So far, she's got 243 votes. So it's sort of most. But actually, the person who came second was Li He. She's won the Jianqiao Cup, the Shenzhen Mingshou competition, and also the women's team event at the Asian Games. The other candidates were Zhou Hongyu, Wu Yiming, Wang Yubo, and Tang Jiawen, but they have very much fewer votes. So that's what's happening, how the voting is going in China.
How much did Wang Yubo win? How many votes did Wang Yubo get?
Zero at the moment.
Oh wow, that's harsh.
Wow. I guess it is harsh, but I don't know. Maybe
in the Asian Games, wasn't she an integral part of the Asian Games women's team?
I think your definition and other people's definition of integral maybe it's slightly different. For me, it's the sum of the divided regions up to take to the limit as you shrink the size of the. Oh, we just have Yang Kaiwen doing a pose in the Korean League. That's a rare sight over here.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Show me.
That's on the screen right now. He's doing that. What's he called it?
Breaking news.
Is it breaking news? Yeah, it's like the
Vogue. That's the Madonna. That's the Madonna Vogue.
Yeah. So we gotta. Maybe he's a fan of Madonna.
You saw it here first, fellas.
Yeah, fellas, can't go wrong there. And then we have the next poll. He's got the best Chinese player, MVP. So the choices are Ding Hao for winning the LG Cup, Samsung Cup, Guoshou, and the national individuals, Mind Sports national individuals. So he's got the most votes, 433, which is fair because he's won 2 world majors. Second is Gu Zhihao winning the Lanke Cup. Maybe arguably Lanke Cup is more valuable because he beat Xin Jinso in the final. But hey, whatever. And I think Gu Zhihao also won the Mind Sports men's fast game title. So I guess the Mind Sports is a Chinese national competition where all the provinces would send teams to compete. So Gu Zhihao is second. Mi Yuting for winning the Tianyuan and Mingyuan, 2 domestic titles. Li Weiqing for winning the Longxing and King of Kings, but he's only got 1 vote so far. Yang Kaiwen for winning the Da Qishi, so that's 1 vote. Yang Dingqin for winning the Ahan Tongshan Cup, 4 votes. Fan Tingyu for winning the Southwest King, 6 votes. But I guess Ding Hao is the deserved winner there. And I think for the next poll is for the best Chinese women player. Didn't we go through that? I think we did that one before. The next poll is interesting. It's got the best, veterans player in China. So we got Yu Bing for winning some invitational, Ma Xiaochun for winning some invitational, Wang Yunan for winning some invitational, Liu Xiaoguang for winning 2 games in the veterans Nongxin Cup type of thing, versus Korea and Japan. But not all of them were dwarfed by Ruinai Wei for qualifying through the Lanke Cup veterans section, 269 votes, beating everyone else by a long, big margin. I guess, probably definitely deserved it. I think he's got some extra polls about like the best young player or etc. But couldn't be bothered digging them up. They're probably just further down the list now. Anyway, so that's it. Hopefully that's give you a good feel for the a preview for what's going to happen in the annual awards from the Pro Weiqi. So with that, Gaza, unless you have any comments,
I've got two things I want to mention.
Yep.
First one.
Yeah.
We had a very special game a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yes, we did. Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of our former guest on our podcast appeared on Baduk TV.
Yep.
Challenging a professional on a show that they do on Baduk TV called Baduk Cafe.
Yep.
So that's where an amateur player will play against a women's professional at a handicap game. And we had a guest on episode 31 of the podcast.
Yep.
Of course, we're talking about Zin.
Yep.
And the Baduk Cafe show, the amateurs that they get, obviously the amateurs are Korean because it's a Korean show. We somehow managed to get Zin a spot on the show.
Yeah.
We're not going to explain how. But we pulled some strings and we actually managed to get him on the show. And I think you put it on the on the video, put it on the video now. But he got to play Kim Dayoung.
Yeah.
Kim Dayoung, I think, is a 5-dan. Also, she's Kim Chae-young's sister, but she's also a very strong player herself. And Zin played her at a 3-stone handicap game.
Let's just
and it
say
was a
Zin had
very
a good game.
exciting. It was a really exciting game. Zin played. He told me a lot of stuff. I had a discussion with him. Afterwards, after I watched this video. And he told me he told me a lot of stories, like how he was extremely nervous. And it was really funny because people were commenting in the chat that Zin was putting stones. He wasn't putting stones on the intersections, right in the middle of the intersections, and people were wondering if that was a strategy, like he was intentionally putting them off center to try and distract the pro. He basically told me that he was just so nervous that he was essentially just dropping the stones on the board.
You can imagine. Yes. And let's say before the game, Kim Dayoung, she's already lost one game in her previous appearance on the Baduk Cafe, and apparently no pro has ever lost 2 games, consecutively on the Baduk Cafe. And let's just say that Zin had a really good game.
Kim Dayoung really, you can tell in the if you watch the stream, the premiere, Kim Dayoung really wanted to win this game. She was trying every trick in the book. It was just really cool. It was just really cool to see a good friend of ours, Zin, up against a professional. It was obviously a really awesome experience. Something that I hope one day I get to do, but I'm nowhere near Zin's level. Hopefully, maybe one day I will be. But Zin loved the experience. He had a really great time. Someone asked what Kim Dayoung's rank is in Korea. Kim Dayoung, I just checked. Kim Dayoung is ranked 197 in Korea. Which is 11th in the women's rankings. So she's just outside the top 10 in the women, but she's inside the top 200 in Korea. She also does a bit of commentary on some of the Baduk TV, streams for world majors. Like I said, I remember when obviously the stream is not live. It's a recording, and it was actually quite a few months after Zin played the game that it ended up appearing on Baduk TV.
Yep.
And during that entire time, I didn't know if what the result was, if he'd won or lost.
Yeah.
So I was anxiously, refreshing Baduk TV basically every Monday.
Yeah.
Waiting to see if Zin was going to premiere that night.
Yes.
And yeah, it was when it finally happened. I was spamming everyone. I was posting in all of the Discords.
Yeah.
And yeah, just some other funny things in the chat. I remember in the Baduk TV live chat, because obviously Zin is not Korean.
Yeah.
So the Hangul, his name is a little bit strange. It's not what you would typically see for a Korean player.
Right.
So people were saying, "Is this guy a foreigner?"
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. But anyway, yeah, that was the cool thing that happened.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I did want to mention, someone posted in the chat. Someone asked, okay. Does anyone ever discuss the possibility of fixed games in the world of Go? I'm guessing they're talking about the world of professional Go.
Right.
And I believe that this has been asked. I'm guessing that this is relevant because it's recently happened in chess, Western chess.
Yep.
In fact, I believe it happened just yesterday. They're having a world championship in chess. It's called the World Blitz Championship.
Right.
So it's fast chess. And in one of the rounds, two players, they played what was considered, a bit of a farce of a game, where for those that play chess, there's a thing called a knight.
Yep.
Which is one of the few pieces that can move at the very beginning of the game. You can only move things called pawns or knights at the very beginning of the game, and the first few moves will usually consist of pawn moves.
You're right. Yeah.
You can play the knight, but usually, eventually you will have to move a pawn.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can't move your other pieces.
Yep.
But you can move your knight at the start, but often you'll eventually start moving pawns. Well, what these two players did is they basically just moved their knights back and forth.
Right.
For about 15 or so moves, and then agreed to a draw.
Right.
So they basically just made a mockery.
Yeah, that's a disgrace. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after the following round, the arbiter told them, this is bringing the game into disrepute, and it's also a pre-arranged draw, which is match fixing.
Yeah.
And so instead of both of those players getting assigned a draw, they both got assigned a loss.
Right. Yeah.
So. It's quite astonishing because, and also there were cameras that caught them, basically discussing before the game started that they were going to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing, obviously I'm guessing that the questions now come up is this sort of thing happened in professional Go?
Yeah.
And I would have to say, honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
The closest that I've heard is that I have heard some rumors that back in the past when Korean players would get exemptions from military service if they won a world major.
Right. Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. Nowadays, you have to win the Asian Games in Weiqi in order to get military exemption.
Yeah.
But I believe in the past, if you won a world major, you would get exemption. And I have heard rumors that some players, there have been some players that have made sort of the final of a world championship, and their opponent was already exempted, and their opponent may have perhaps gone a little bit easier in the game.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I've only heard rumors, and I'm not going to say explicitly, what those rumors are. But I to be honest, I don't believe them.
Right.
But I have heard, that suggestion. That's the closest that I've heard to match fixing.
Yes.
In professional Go. Other than that, I haven't heard. I haven't heard anything about match fixing.
Yep.
It certainly couldn't be something that's ruled out, but I think it's a little bit. It's a very different scenario to that in chess, because in chess, draws in Go there isn't really any draws. Like draws are a sort
Rare.
of less than 1% chance of happening.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Shinjin So this year he played 130 games and he didn't have a single draw.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas in chess, draws are very common, and in basically, players there'll often be cases where players will play a draw, and it seems like they haven't made any effort.
Yeah.
Where in Go that's not really possible. So that doesn't mean that match fixing doesn't happen, because there are obviously different scenarios where a player might arrange with some other player to lose this game, and sort of in return for a favor later down the road.
Yeah.
That sort of thing has happened in sumo wrestling, so it's not unheard of, unfathomable that it could happen in professional Go, but I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that sort of thing happening, and it certainly doesn't seem likely. But of course, we should always be vigilant.
Yes. Well, I guess there's nothing to add except that really hasn't. No big cases has been known.
Yeah, and it's certainly not something that you can just immediately say no. No, it's not the sort of thing that will ever happen, because Go players have more pride than that. Like it's not something that you should just immediately dismiss. But simply the fact is that we haven't seen any. We don't have any reason to believe that it is happening.
Correct. All right. So that's a detour on the possibility of match fixing in Go, and also Zin playing some Weiqi. Definitely check out his episode. I will post it in the description, because to be honest, I'd really like it to see. I really want to see it get a lot of views. Yes.
I know that we don't get a lot of views on our podcast, so we're not going to do much to boost the views. But I really want Zin to get a lot of views. It would be so cool.
Yeah, awesome. Now, okay, Gaza. With that, let's quickly look at the calendar. I guess it's we're near the end of the month, so I'm expecting a new list of match schedules to be released. But as far as I can tell, over the next week, it's the main thing is going to be the Mlily Cup quarterfinal, semifinals.
The big thing is the Mlily Cup semifinals. That's certainly the biggest thing. There'll be some Baduk League matches. I'll post those in the calendar.
Sure. Okay.
But the real big thing is the Mlily Cup semifinals. That's going to be huge.
Yeah.
Also something else. The Maxim Cup will be starting, I believe, on the 1st of January.
Right.
So we don't need to preview it today. We can preview it next week.
Sure.
We can discuss it next week. But
sure.
Yeah, Maxim Cup is in Korea.
Awesome. And I guess the next big one would be the end of the month when the LG Cup starts. But nothing else major.
LG Cup final, that is, yes.
LG Cup final, yes. Okay, so that's it for another episode. Thank you, Gaza.
Yeah, that's it for the year as well.
For the year as well, yes. We're going to back next year with definitely the annual awards, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, thanks everyone so much for watching today and throughout 2023. Yep. We will be back in 2024, hopefully with weekly podcast.
All right, great. Thank you very much. See you guys next time.